The J. Michaels Show.
Welcome once again to the J. Michaels Show. Hey, we've got a great guest for you today, the author of Crushed. We'll get to her in just a moment, but first, I want to remind you to hit all those subscribe buttons, like buttons. You can comment wherever you are, whether you're watching video or audio, and we really appreciate that when you subscribe to the show. Kiersten Lyons is my guest, and she is the author of Crushed. Let's talk to Kersten. Say hi.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being my guest. I'm doing really good. How are you doing over there in Atlanta?
I'm good. I forget that I live in Atlanta sometimes. So when people say that, I'm like, oh, yeah, I live in Atlanta. I've lived so many places. I'm like, yeah, I'm living in Atlanta, and I've been here for a while.
You originally are from Maryland, right?
Well, actually, I was born in California. My parents are from San Diego. I was born in Long Beach, lived there till I was 5. I grew up in Maryland, yeah.
Okay, all right. And you are the author of Crushed, but you're also a talented actress and writer. So tell me about some of the shows you've been in.
Well, the ones that people care about the most were Mad Men. I was in the first season of Mad Men on an episode, Grey's Anatomy, where my pet lion attacked me, and Bones. People really like Bones. It was a Fox show, and I was wanted for murder alongside my sister wives. We all shared the same husband, and he was murdered in a cornfield. So, yeah.
In a cornfield. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, it sounds like you've been around. You go back to California when you're acting?
Well, I actually took a pause from acting to write this book and to really focus on this book. It really felt like the right time to kind of transition. And I talk about in the book, I kind of have taken other pauses. So I haven't been out to LA in the last probably 2 years, but I go out for work and stuff like that. That's not true. I was out there, but doing something totally different. My husband and I also own a content creation business. So I was doing some content creation at Disneyland, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do lots of things.
Well, tell me about the book Crushed. What's the theme of it? What's it all about?
Well, I think what's really important to know about Crushed is that it was actually based on a one-woman show I did. It first premiered at the Hollywood Fringe Festival in 2012, and it is based on from 3 years before that. While I was tying the bows on my wedding invitations, my fiance at the time, he's no longer the person I'm with, my fiance walked in and told me that he didn't love me. He didn't know what love was. And about 45 minutes later, I found out he cheated. Wow. So it's this idea of then he calls the wedding off, then he calls it back on, then he calls it off, then he calls it back on. And it's the idea of really what happens when everything we thought was supposed to happen with our life doesn't happen, and how do we not only deal with that, but move on. And I think so many times when we've had these crushing, these heartbreaking moments, and it really is the, how did I get here? How did I get to a place where I'm allowing someone to treat me like this? So it's fun. I mean, it goes back into my childhood and all this stuff. But it's very funny. It's very silly. It's also very emotional, obviously. And then the crux of it is really seeing me kind of fall in love with my husband. It's a rom-com in real life, if you will, but also fall in love with myself. And I think the message that's come out of it, not only from what I've written, but also the early readers, are really just this is such a powerful testimony of just life. Mm-hmm. And I think so many of us live in a curated sense of Instagram and social media of really trying to put our best foot forward and not really being honest. And this is really just an honest look at what happens when the dreams that we had when we were little kids or teenagers or in our 20s and in our 30s and what happens when it doesn't happen the way we were so sure it would. And we were kind of sold that in American culture, right? If you build it, it's going to happen. Just dream it and believe it. And so what happens when that happens? And so it's not just about, it's crushed the boys that never liked me back, and then boys is crossed off, and it's life. So it's not just about boys. It's so much more than that. And it's really about finding peace in the unexpected and the surprises of life. And it's something that has been such a beautiful part of my life. And I feel so grateful that I finally get to share it, because it's 15 years in the making.
So is it written more like a novel, or is it written like a self-help book?
I would say first of all, it's hilarious that you asked me that because how many publishers ask me the same thing? I don't know what to do with this. I call it a memoir ish. It is very much a memoir. It is very much chronologically, it jumps kind of back and forth. Even in the beginning, you get a little timeline to kind of see, but it really is a story for like more than anything else. And throughout the story, you're also getting to learn my life lessons. And very much, I talk about being in a 12-step program. I was in Al-Anon, which is Friends and Family of Alcoholics. And really, when you're sitting in those rooms in any sort of like group therapy or anything like that, when you're sitting in those rooms and you start to hear people's stories and you're like, oh, me too. Oh, me too. It's not a step-by-step self-help book. I'm not trying to get anybody to do anything. It's really more of okay, our details are different, but like the crux of what we've been through is the same. The crux of the longing, the crux of like hoping that something will happen and it doesn't happen like that. And like, how do we move through that? And so there's no like, hey, do this. It's more like, this is what worked for me, take it or leave it. And it's I'm a comedy writer. And so it's just a really funny kind of, romp through memory lane.
So tell me about your process. How did you get through it all?
Like physically, or how did I get through writing the book?
Well, but we'll get to writing the book in a moment, but just tell me physically, how did you get through it all?
I think the biggest step, there's two really big steps in healing and kind of moving through that healing. And the first is the truth that we're not alone. I don't think we can really get through anything until we realize we're not alone. I think when you have something like a wedding called off 2 months before, when people have flights and hotels and all these things, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It is so embarrassing. And to like acknowledge that embarrassment and be like, I feel really stupid right now. Or whatever that is, and then the next step is really to tell the truth on ourselves. Because like 12-step programs talk about, you're only as sick as your secrets. And I think so many of us, we do that self-protection thing, which served us maybe in the past, but we really have to ask the questions of like, how did I get here? And why am I making these choices? And taking responsibility for that doesn't take away any of the responsibility for the person that hurt us. Like, I am not responsible for his actions. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's more like, how did I get here? Like, why do I keep allowing these people in my life? Because it wasn't just boys or men. It was also, as an actress, you walk into a room and you're told what you are. You're not pretty enough. You don't have enough sex appeal. You're not funny enough. Well, actually, I never got that. I never got you're not funny enough. But I did get the stamp constantly being in LA, you're not pretty enough. And it's such a fascinating thing as you're growing up as a child. People are telling things about you and to you. I was bullied as a child and I go into that. But even I just put up a post on TikTok and I was talking about how my daughter the other night, she's almost 12, and she goes, Mom, come in. Come see how pretty my face is. And I went in, she goes, Mom, doesn't my face look so pretty? And it came from such a genuine, sweet place. It wasn't like, oh, look at me. It was just like, wow, look at my face. And I thought, when I was days away from turning 12 years old, I never felt like that. And like the generational wounds that we can do by doing the work on ourselves, that I can give her that. And I hopefully am not passing on, the pain that I experience. Hopefully I can pass on truth and goodness to her so she knows she's valued and she's loved and she's worthy and all these wonderful things. And that only came from me really digging into my past and finding out like, why am I making these decisions? And so that was it really goes back to that. I knew I wasn't alone. I knew that sitting in those Al-Anon rooms and then doing the one-woman show, and it's funny and it's silly and it's in Hollywood, and the amount of people that came up to me after the show and was like, me too. I asked out a boy in 7th grade and he said no. Or me too. I loved Jonathan Taylor Thomas and thought I was going to marry him. Or, me too. I thought I was going to get into this college and I didn't get into it. And that is such a beautiful thing to look around and be like, oh, like, this is universal. And like, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just a human being trying to work it out, you know?
So do you do a lot of, like, you mentioned TikTok. Do you do a lot of comedy on social media, for example?
I do. I did a lot more sketches. And then once I started storytelling, I started really telling stories and being funny. And my husband is very funny. We met in Groundlings, which is an improv school in Los Angeles. And so we do funny stuff on TikTok. And yeah, it's not like, oh, I'm just doing comedy or I'm just doing that. I really like show up. My hope is that I just show up as what I wish I would have had when I was a kid. Someone to just be authentic, be themselves, tell the truth, and hopefully find humor in life, you know? I mean, it is hilarious. So many things in my life are so funny when I kind of am able to step back, you know?
You mentioned your writing process. So what was your writing process to get Crushed ready to go?
Well, first, a big chunk of it had already been done in the one woman show. And that writing process was so incredible because I had written a little bit here and there. And I got into a writers group in LA with a bunch of screenwriters and TV writers because of my ex, the one that hurt me so much. So it's so fascinating to me that here I am in this moment as a writer, and like, that was a huge part of my life, is like being in that writers group and sitting and having people read my stuff and thinking, oh my gosh, I could do this. Like, I'm good at this. This is really awesome. And so, you know, there are gifts and goodness that can be found out of horrible situations,
right?
As much as they suck. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. It sucked. And there was a lot of grief that came out of that and a lot of grieving. But when I was doing the one woman show, it was clocking in at 2 hours. And I met this really amazing woman named Jane Morris. She's a comedian. She used to work with, oh my gosh, I can't think of his name right now. Gary Marshall. She used to work with him a ton. And she did this workshop with one woman shows. And she said, this is great. You got to cut it down to an hour. Nobody's going to want to sit through more than an hour. And she said, also, I want you to plot me in to the moment that this all happened, when your ex said he didn't love you. And that that cracked everything open. And it showed me to almost like, start in the beginning, go backwards, kind of fill it in. And it was a really beautiful thing that happened. That was like 13 years ago. So that is what started. And then I put up the one woman show, and then it won Best of Hollywood Fringe for solo show. And then I had a huge producer come, and he was going to make it into a TV show. And you'll learn in the book that didn't happen because I got crushed once more. But then I was like, I put it up again a few years later. This big agent was supposed to come. She bought tickets. She never showed. Like, the amount of times that I've had like crushed moments and rejection have been like numerous, let's say.
Right.
And being an actor, that's just part of being an artist of anything, that's just part of it. You put yourself out there, you get rejected. And then I was kind of done. And then in 2023, in April of 2023, I read a CDC report that said 60% of teenage girls are experiencing persistent sadness and loneliness. And of that, 30% have thought about harming themselves and 10% have. And people had asked me, I had shared the crush story here and there on TikTok, and it had gone viral. And people were like, you should write a book, you should write a book. And I was just like, I can't. Like, it's so painful when you've had it almost happen so many times. And also, a producer found me on TikTok, and I wrote a movie. She brought it to a studio, and then she ghosted me. She can't have it. I have the rights. But like, it had so many iterations that when people kept being like, you should write a book, you should write a book, I was like, I can't. Then I read that CDC report, and I was like, I have to. Yeah. Because I have to let other people know, but especially girls, that it's going to be okay. And that I know it's so hard when you get your heart broken by a boy or a girl or a dream or whatever, but it is going to be okay. And there are surprises around every corner. And also, it's okay to grieve. And it's really scary to feel pain. We don't like it. We do anything we can to not do it. Right. And it's really funny to dig through your childhood. It really is. As painful as it is, it's hilarious to find the letters and the pictures and the hopes and the dreams that you had, and to have compassion for your little kid self is just a beautiful thing. And so that CDC report really pushed me.
Yeah.
Because when I posted about it on TikTok, the amount of comments I got literally within like 2 minutes was like, me too, I feel this way. And then I got women talking about me too, and I'm a woman. Like, I'm not in my teens. And it was like, there's a teen girl inside all of us, because there's a teen boy. There's a teenager inside all of us, literally just longing to be seen, known, and loved. And so how do we honor that part of us so we can move forward? And so our wounds don't just bleed on other people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wrote up a book proposal. I didn't even know like what a book proposal was. I was like, okay. And I had a friend that got me a meeting with the agent, and the agent loved me and then passed because she was like, I just don't see the book. I don't see where it would go. And then I was like, I got to keep going for these girls. And so I put myself out there again, and then I found the most incredible agent ever and best rep I've ever had. And then she was like, I think this is going to be huge. And then it was like breaks. All these publishers were like, I just don't know who this is for. And I'm like, it's for your daughter. It's for your niece. It's for your wife. It's for your mom. Like, it's for the women in your life and the men, because I have had some early readers that are men that have enjoyed it. But it is really fascinating to me how many the comments that I would get on my TikTok posts, and then just like me too, or thank you, or my goodness, I thought I was the only one. And then to talk to these publishers, and they're just like, I don't know. And I was like, it's right here. The proof is right here. We are so desperately needing this. And so there was one publisher, and she saw something and she passed it to her 24-year-old like new editor. And the editor was like, oh, we need this. This is it. Yeah. And so I wrote the rest of the book in like 2 months. I think it was like 7 weeks.
Wow. So I was going to ask you, how has the book itself been received?
Well, very well, except it's not out yet. It comes out June 10th. Oh. But I've had some early readers that do not know me, have never seen my TikTok, and we're getting really beautiful responses. Mm-hmm. And I've had I had a girl. I'm going to cry. I had a girl, she was one of the first early readers, and she messaged me and let me know that she used the book to get out of a toxic relationship.
Ah, that's good.
And I was just on a podcast that hasn't aired yet, but one of the women is going through a really, really horrible divorce. She's in her mid-30s, and she has used the book to be able to remind herself of her worth, and also to remind herself this isn't the end.
Right.
And I think what's so beautiful about this book is most of what I write about is not right what's happening. There's an epilogue. I talk a little bit about what's happening, but it's really for readers to see, like, not only have I grown and like gotten past that moment, but I've gotten past that moment and I'm still healing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not, healing is nonlinear, just like grief is nonlinear, healing's nonlinear. You can accept one thing. I talk about, I had accepted my ex and I were done. And then 2 weeks later, I'm calling him, begging him to come back. So the idea, and I want people to know, like, that's real and it's normal and you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, you've also taken the concept of the book, and turned it into a podcast. How did that start?
So in the midst of 2020 and the dumpster fire that was, I just was like, it kind of went back to, I want people to know they're not alone. Mm-hmm. Because when you're in the midst of heartbreak, right? Whatever the heartbreak is, you lost your job, you lost your dream, you lost the partner, it feels like you're the only one. And it is so, I talked about it being embarrassing, but like, it's really isolating. And I was the only person at that moment when I had a broken engagement that I knew that had a broken engagement. Mm-hmm. So that was triple embarrassing to go to Facebook and like back in 2009 and stop being engaged to the person, right? Like on Facebook. It's embarrassing. It's mortifying. And so when 2020 was happening and people were losing their jobs, and, we had to, and this is in the book, we had to leave Brooklyn. We had just adopted our son. We lost a ton of work. We couldn't afford to live in Brooklyn. We ended up having to live with a family member, my aunt, who took us in because of the adoption. We had to be in a certain state. And it was a whole thing. And to like, the amount of times we've had to move because of certain situations and bringing people into our home and trying to love people well, it's so devastating. And I just was like, I want other people to tell their stories because I'm not the only one that's crushed. I have so many friends right now. We would have these Zoom, like just friends meetups, and everybody would be like, this happened and that happened and this happened. And so right before I decided to launch the podcast, my cousin at the time, she was in her mid-20s, and I just was like, yeah, you're funny and I want you on. And you're so good at talking to people. And her and I think very similarly about mental health, and we think very differently about life. And so I thought that would be a really fun thing where, I'm an elder millennial and she's a millennial, almost Gen Z. And I loved that. And where I really subscribe to faith, she doesn't. And I loved that we could bring this podcast and bring our listeners on this journey of talking to different women and a couple men and just being able to find out their crush stories. And we laughed. I mean, we were like, what did you want to be when you were 13? Who did you want to marry? I mean, I think something I do very well that I'm very proud of is that I can make you cry in one sentence and I can punch you in the gut with laughter in the next sentence. And that's my hope in the podcast, in my one-woman show, and the things that I write, and now this book. So
yeah, there it is. There it is.
It is.
When you do your podcast, is it audio or audio and video?
So it was audio and I'm so sorry. It was just audio because we did it from 2021 to 2023. I think those were and we had 3 seasons. And we've actually been back and forth about bringing it back for the book because it was so helpful. But actually we're doing, it's not announced yet, but we're doing a little bit of a spin on it. But I'm really excited because I just think that there's so much joy to behold when we grieve. And I think so many of us are so scared to grieve.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And do you record it at home or do you have a studio? Where do you do your podcast from?
So I recorded it at home, and then my cousin Erin would record it where she was. And so we'd record it from home, and then I'd edit it. I'm an editor too. Like I said, my husband and I have a content creation business. So I'd edit it. And I mean, it was a 2-man show, but really it was a 1-man show. She'd show up, I'd book the guests. Yeah.
So you do have guests on it, and how do you bring your guests on?
I reach out to people that I think have a great story. And some have really big platforms and a lot of followers, and some don't. That's not important to me. What's important to me, I mean, we've had people on that, everything from the major I thought I was going to live my life, my college major I decided not to do, to the boy I loved didn't love me back, to someone losing their son, someone losing their father in a bridge accident, someone losing their son to suicide. So it runs the gambit of crushed moments. And it's also to say there's no comparative suffering, right? Whatever we're experiencing right now is really important. And so we're not going to shame ourselves if what we're experiencing looks so different than someone else, because that doesn't lead to healing. That just leads to shame.
Yeah. You mentioned your beginnings. You have a degree in musical theater and elementary education, right?
Well, I don't have a degree because I left after my sophomore year to move to LA. I went to school for musical theater and I went to school for elementary education, and I realized I was about to accrue $65,000 in debt. And I was like, I'm not going to do that to go be a waitress. So I didn't. Right. So I left and I moved to LA literally days after I turned 21. And it's all in the book. I mean, it's such a love letter to LA, especially in the early 2000s. And yeah, I moved to LA and I didn't know, I knew one person. I had a great aunt and a great uncle, but I didn't really know them. And I had one friend who I was deeply in love with, and I thought we were going to get married. And spoiler alert, we did not.
Yeah.
And it's really sweet how he's throughout the whole book. And it's really sweet. He wrote my foreword, and he's an actor, and his name is Chris Carmack, and he's on Grey's Anatomy, and he was on the OC, and he was on Nashville. And it's just really sweet how I just thought we were going to get married. I just knew it. We knew each other from high school. And We did not. We would not have been good together.
Wow.
And those are the kind of silly, sweet moments of like realizing, wow, like maybe what I think I want or need isn't right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you're out in LA and you are trying to become an actress. You're working what as a waitress? What? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked so many jobs. Like the amount of jobs I've worked to like just pay rent. And by the way, spoiler alert, I have bounced rent checks. I think once or twice. Yeah, I mean, no, I started in retail. I did retail, I did hostessing, I did cocktail waitressing, I did serving at a restaurant. I dressed up as a party princess for 5 years. I was a Disney princess for little girls' birthday parties. I taught swim lessons. I did marketing, like on the street marketing, where you like, I mean, one of the funniest things I talk about in the book is Gap. Gap hired actors on one Black Friday weekend to go around a mall with like fake paper in the bottom of the bag and a puffy vest on top, and to walk into stores and like basically be marketing. So be like, oh, this shirt's really cute, but at Gap, they have buy one, get one half off. Come on, let's go back to Gap. I mean, it was the cheesiest thing. And I did that for 2 days. I did on Good Friday. I did on Black Friday and I did it on that Sunday. And I got paid great. And It was, I mean, so it's just like the amount of things, the ways I dressed. Like I was a stylist for a TLC wedding show where I dressed the host. The amount of things that my dog is doing circles in the back. The amount of things that I did to pay my bills. The amount of places I worked. I was a nanny. I was a personal assistant. I think it's really important also that people are really honest about what it takes to pursue a dream, especially in the arts. Because I think so many people are like, I don't know, I just came out and I had an audition and then I'm now an actress. And that's just not how it works. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have a manager. I didn't have my SAG card. And, as much as I'm not sitting here talking to you about my blockbuster movie that I'm in right now, which that's what I thought I was going to be doing with my life, I had incredible experiences in LA. I got to work on wonderful TV shows. And, I did that, like I got to do that. And I think my 12-year-old little girl self would be so proud of me.
So you said also that you and your husband, you're content creators.
Yes.
What do you create? Tell me about that.
So we work with brands. My husband worked for an online men's, and they have a full magazine as well. It's called Gear Patrol. And for years, one of his best friends from college created it. And then he started doing auto reviews. And so out of that, he started reviewing products and all these things. And then we created relationships and we create content for brands. And so we do forward facing, meaning we're on it. We're not influencers, but we mostly shoot, edit, write, and produce. And so we work with big brands and local brands. We just love, come on, babe. My dog wants to get up.
What's your dog's name?
My dog's name is Lagos. It's like Lagos, Nigeria. His first owner was Nigerian, and so he's named Lagos. He's a rehome. He came to us in November of this past
He's
year.
so cute.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a star himself.
He really is. He does not, unlike every star though, he does not want to look at himself in the mirror. Like if you try to get him to look at a reflection, he's like, it's great.
Well, it doesn't have the ego.
No, not at all.
Okay, well, that's content creation. What are your dreams now? Where do you want to go now?
You know what's funny? I've had a lot of people ask me about the book because, like I said, it was a TV show pilot and it also has a movie connection. I think ultimately my biggest hope and dream for this book is that whoever needs to read it reads it. Mm-hmm. And if that means millions of copies and a New York Times bestseller, or if that means 100 girls read it, I really want to sit in like the present moment of like, I wrote this for the girl that needs to feel seen. And so I think that's my dream. And I think my other dream is I have 3 kids. I have a daughter biologically, and then we have a who I talk about my kids a little bit in the book, but we have a 29-year-old foster daughter who was my little sister through Big Brothers Big Sisters. And what's really cool is my publisher is actually given a portion of the proceeds. I got to pick a charity, and I chose Big Brothers Big Sisters because of how much that program affected my life and impacted my life. And it brought our oldest daughter. She was my little sister for 8.5 years. And then she came and lived with us when she was 18, and she started to call us her other parents. So we have a 29-year-old, and then we have an almost 12-year-old. And then we adopted our son in 2020, like I said, and he's 5. And we have 3 kids. And I think for me, my biggest hope and my biggest dream would be that I continue to love myself well, so then I can love other people well. Obviously, my kids and my husband first. That's my little unit, but other people well. I just want other people to feel that they are worthy and that they have purpose.
So the book is not out yet, but it's coming out in June, right?
June 10th. And we're having a 90s dance party to celebrate. I live in this incredible creative community called Trilith. It's right across from Trilith Studios, which is where they shot all the Marvel movies. And they're shutting down the street, and we're having a massive 90s dance party. So if you're in the Atlanta area, I'd love for you to come out. It's going to be great.
Okay. So where would someone be able to find it once it's out?
Well, you can pre-order it now. It's on pretty much every major thing: Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Bookshop, Books A Million. It's, I think, at Target and Walmart. And you can just Google Crushed. I'm sure you'll have in the show notes. But so we have a whole website that you can go to. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of everywhere. A lot of local bookstores. You can always go to your local bookstore and ask for it. I love supporting independent and local bookstores. We have one here called Scholar and Scribe. They're like so incredible. And so obviously I'd love for you to find it there and go in and ask to pre-order. But it's available for pre-order right now, and it comes out Tuesday, June 10th. And
who is it being published by?
So it's Regalo Press, and they're an imprint of Simon & Schuster.
Uh-huh. So
the website is Simon & Schuster.
Yeah. So you could just go to Simon & Schuster and look it up there and pre-order it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we will put links under this video and audio.
Thank you.
Where people can find it so they can go and search for that book. What are you doing next? Will there be a sequel to the book?
So I'm taking the movie that I wrote, and I'm actually moving it into now a novel. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of like restructuring it into a novel. And so, yeah, I think novels are kind of next. I really, really, really love writing books. My editor is incredible, and I love the process. So yeah, but obviously I would love to sell the film TV rights to the book. If that happens, that would be great.
And if that happened, would you star in it yourself?
No, I think I would be in it, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But I would not be able to play myself, because I would want a girl that, when the moment happens, I'm 28 and I'm not 28 anymore. Although you could tell me I look like it still. And then obviously there's children, little me's and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'd also, you know what? I'd love to give an actress that is dealing with so much of the stuff that I dealt with in the book her shot, know? That'd be really cool.
Well, you don't look a day over 26.
Well, thank you. It's good lighting.
Okay. Well, my guest today, Kiersten Lyons, and her book is called Crushed. Be sure to pre-order that book and look for it when it is out in June. Thank you so much for being my guest, Kersten.
You're so welcome. It's actually Kiersten, but it's fine because my entire life I've been called Kristen, Kiersten.
Well, I have an issue, and anyone who's watched my show, sometimes I get names wrong.
And you know what? It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah. Well, Kiersten, thank you so much for being a guest on my show, and we really appreciate you.
You're so welcome. I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll see you next time on The J. Michael Show.
Goodbye.